All right, here we go again. Buckle up. So we're going to speak on a topic, some topics here. Officer down, officer involved shooting, death by Bearcat incidents. Now, the Tulare, I guess it's called, Sheriff's Department does not allow people to respond on Facebook. I don't know if they have anything on X. I can't respond there anyway at this point. But something I started years ago or tried to start was an after action review system. Now, you, you can't be held accountable. The reason people shy away from it is they're afraid they're going to use that information to charge them with something. But you can't be held accountable for anything you couldn't have known before the incident. And obviously, if you chose another course, in most cases, if not all, that was the best option. And you don't even have to chart. You don't have to select. I don't know. They're doing something crazy here, but causing misspeak. We'll just curse them there. Maybe they'll go by the wayside. So you can't be held accountable for something you didn't know. You can't be held accountable for not selecting another plan if your plan was valid. All you're required to do is select a valid plan. Now, yes, I agree. People have been charged for things they couldn't have known before the uh, the incident, but this may be a fix for it because there is case law. I think it's Graham. I'm not sure. Graham versus the Popo or something like that. Well, again, nobody's really using it. I may have been blocked from being seen when I bring it up because these people may actually be anti. There are people that were in the FBI, well, actually in the Marshal Service. The little girl was kind of all anti-police. Right. Right. So there was questions of whether we could trust her. Part of the people that probably helped kill Jonathan Luna. All right. So what we really want to get down to is this fact that there should be an after-action review system. Law enforcement sensitive. Anybody who leaks it, they should be charged. It's an internal system within law enforcement. Again, FBI is where that usually comes from. I don't know. DHS may have taken over some of that. And what you essentially have is you have a few people that work in an office that. So here we have the. I was going to do this online, but I don't. They don't accept messaging. Actually, messaging, but they don't accept. And they probably don't look at their message on Facebook. They probably get stuff like "I'm going to rape your daughter" or something like that. So they probably don't even look at it. That's the way people are. So you have to do an after action review. I haven't looked at. I'm trying to get information on the case. Again, it's not about somebody being run over by a bearcat, but yes, it is. Again, there's so many different things that happened there. First off, there was an officer killed. Okay, so it's an eviction. Eviction is always an after action review. When there's a violence in an eviction, there's always there should also always be an after action review. Well, because there obviously in some cases, as we've seen, there are signs. It doesn't mean that missing the sign that something else should have been done doesn't mean something else should have been done. Because the police department does A, B, or C and it works every time. So they did ABC and it didn't work. You can't be held accountable because ABC is your way of handling those situations. There is a detective. I'm not sure. I don't remember detectives being used for evictions. Now, I believe in that process if you do it every time. And I believe they should do a workup, an investigative workup, before they put anybody out on the street. That may not have been done because, again, you don't do it and it works. We brought this up, I brought this up at I think a death related eviction in recent history. I can't go through my X right now. It's shut down. I can't search it or anything. So Tulare County needs to do an after action review. You should have people at FBI that contact them because it's of interest as to what possibly we could have done different. Again, you explain to them in the program that doesn't mean that that was available to your mind or anything, even if you thought maybe you wanted to do it because you selected, again, in good faith, the law enforcement entity selected the process that they believed would work best. And of course, they don't want to lose an officer. As far as running someone over, I don't know how it went down, but that happens. Well, I would think you could just open up the portal and go bink. I think you have portals. Do you have portals in that thing? Again, it happens. Again, you didn't choose that situation. The shooter chose the situation, whether it was intended or accidentally running them over. It happens and it neutralized the threat. But the idea is if you send a detective out and that was to cover some issues that you believe would arise on site, is there something now in hindsight that you can't be held accountable for that you could have done different? Why do we do this? Well, hopefully your entity will say we're going to change it up a little bit. But there's a lot of people out there, a whole nation of law enforcement that could benefit from an after action review. So they receive an after action review from the, well, what could have, it isn't necessarily what went wrong. And that's why you probably don't do it, because that's the mindset people use. But what options may have been beneficial to the officer not being killed, and maybe even not the Bearcat situation not happening. Now they did a lot of work trying to get the guy to come out and get the guy to give up, because for some reason he was out. Like I said, I don't have a lot of information. And again, this should be law enforcement information that is not to be released. Anybody that's a leaker can go to prison. Unless there's some authorization at FBI saying this is beneficial to the greater world. We want them to understand what happened here. Well, it's not being done as a criminal investigation. It's being done as an after action review. Again, once you establish that system and the idea of you can't be held accountable for things that you couldn't see or foresee. Again, even if they say you can foresee it, it isn't. The court would have to decide that you could foresee it, and because it isn't always true. Again, if you simply explain to the court, hey, we do ABC every day and it works. Obviously, we should have did DEF. But that's with the knowledge that you have after a situation. Well, again, believe it or not, the best case scenario sometimes is on an eviction is to get the person outside the house because they're already evicted. So you wait for them to go to Walmart, and you have to, again, where do you have a lot of situations that could arise in a parking lot at Walmart that aren't beneficial to doing it at the Walmart. And it requires a lot more effort, a lot more surveillance to understand what the best scenario is. But again, you lost a life. You lost two lives, actually, but one officer and the person that you're trying to evict. Now, the person you're trying to evict, you may have had to take into custody before even the eviction because it was just resisting kind of thing. Well, you're allowed to drive up on somebody on an eviction outside the house and say, "Hey, look, we need to evict you. We have a team at the house." We received information that you're a little upset at that. We are here because we don't want something bad to happen to you or to us. Communication. So we're just going to sit here for a second, talk about it, and then we'll go back to the house. Again, I do the same thing for some search warrants, or I recommend the same thing for some search warrants. But again, you do ABC all the time and it works. And that might be XYZ for you because you may have another 10 different things that you do between that and ABC. So then the FBI can put those recommendations out. Because what you'll find sometimes in doing after action reviews that it's the same as a previous after action review, and information was not shared. From another department. So there needs to be more sharing of information after an after action review with suggestions of how do you stop something like this from happening. How do you find out about it? Again, I with a detective there, I don't know. I guess I could use the internet here. Hang on. Let's see what AI has to say. In Tulare County, are evictions handled routinely by detectives or only special cases? See if it has any information. Civil unit. Detective. Civil possessions. Okay, so apparently there's writs of possession that a detective might handle. Routine, the civil unit handles. While dedicated civil deputies typically handle other personnel, including detectives or deputies assigned to other units, may be assigned to serve these papers, often as a high risk service, specialized or high risk service. So it was possibly a high risk service because the detective was there. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, over time, I imagine some information will come out. So we know. So what do we do on a high risk surface? Well, we do ABC. It works every time. But this time ABC didn't work. Maybe. I mean, I'm just guessing because I don't have ways to find information yet. So again, it's not traditional, and there are risks in locating a search warrant subject or a eviction subject outside the house. You gotta get them away from their car where you can see the hands, you can see the body. A good place is when they go to Walmart or the shop or the supermarket. But then again, there's other people around, other vehicles. So you have to, you really have to, and again, you can just sneak up on the person. If you believe the person has articulated violence or something like that, you can sneak up on him and grab him or grab her, and hold. Everybody gets an arm and a leg if you have to. Again, because we don't want that to happen. So Tulare can say, well, they said, well, you just ran up on this guy. Well, look at what happened over here. And we didn't run up on somebody. We're trying to stop a shooting. We're trying to stop the death of the subject of the eviction or search warrant or whatever it is. So again, it's always good to have that after action review and then send it out, and they put that in their justification for some sort of other activity. Maybe even the judge, maybe ask the judge for some sort of process outside of the eviction process and say, hey, look, this is our actual, this is what we came up on an after action review. Now, this is a process that came up. Evictions came up about a year ago. I guess my timetable screwed up. Deep states hit me so much. I think it's about a year ago. There was a serious eviction. I think with a death, maybe death of two officers or shooting of two officers. I could actually probably Google it, but it's on my X. I could have pulled it up on my X, but I can't do that now. Again, 10 years worth of work down the drain. I expect the 10 years worth of work. If they don't want to, that's fine. We can continue on. The destruction of Elon Musk, X, and anybody else involved. I actually should have my account reinstated. They knew what they were doing. And then they put it in your head that it's just a glitch, but we can't certify your account or whatever it is, reopen your account. But it's bullshit. It's an intended glitch. The hacked glitch. Yeah, techies are shit. Techies probably had something to do with the death of Jonathan Luna, to tell you the truth. Right. It goes back that far. Their corruption, that is. So they ended up neutralizing the threat by running it over. I don't know. It may have been an accident and then they're playing it the other way, but either way, it's just stuff happens. I thought the Bearcat had like a port that you can shoot up. That's what I would have done. Pull it up broadside. Pink. That's it. You're, you know. So it is what it is. Again, but the big thing is to learn from mistakes. And again, they're not necessarily mistakes. Again, because that's how they, the world's so screwed up. You don't want to say that, but learning from incidents, after action review, that there could be other procedures that are more beneficial. And my thing is to separate the individual from the house. Now, he may have had a gun on him, but if you're able to, and sneaking up on him is relative to him not seeing, not figuring it out. But again, you have somebody dressed like a housewife, somebody dressed like a husband. They could even be arguing with one another. Oh, I know we bought it, but I think the price is too high. Something like that. And then as soon as you walk by, the husband and wife get an arm each. That's the key, is controlling that movement of his hands. And if you can do that, then they can't do nothing. With a death grip on you, hug it into your chest, and then somebody comes up and does the rest of it. So again, they lost the deputy, lost the subject. Again, the key is not to have the subject killed if you can avoid it. So, you have to have that consideration, even though you're angry because they killed the officer. But then we could have saved the officer, and sometimes metaphysics. If you want to kill the subject, you kill a cop or a couple cops just so you can kill the subject, because that's your willpower. So you actually have to have a neutral mind, because if you heal the subject of your arrest, and then you go in and they're all relaxed. Okay, come get me. Hopefully. Well, but if you want to if you're angry and you want to kill the subject of your arrest, you can end up getting an officer killed or two officers killed just so you can kill the subject of the arrest. That's how metaphysics works. So FBI should have a unit that helps state and local with after action reviews, and puts them out for the world of law enforcement to see. And of course, they're not to share it with anybody that's not authorized to see it, and the media is not authorized to see it. Unless you want to develop something where you do send it out to the media. I don't need some clearance for that. But you'll find that these things occur, and there was somewhere else where it occurred, and there was an answer that maybe I provided to do it better, and they don't know. They didn't see it. If they'd have saw it, they may have done it different. The Bundys, I think I said arrest them in a bathroom, their pants down if you got to. Right. Kick you in the stall. Actually, he'd be in the way to hit him. Unless he's, yeah, see if you can steer him, get him to go in the disabled stall. There'd be enough room. So again, an after action system that the FBI or DHS runs with, or even Justice, that helps them with a format of after action review, create at least a physical presentation, like a PowerPoint type of thing, but on just on slides, or a video would be good. If they did this, they did that back when they did the what was that bank robberies? I think a big case, with the shootout. They're all driving like mid '90s vehicles or something, or '80s vehicles. I can't remember what it's called, which one that was called, but they described the whole incident. It was a big shootout, and there was a couple situations in there where if they would have made a different choice, they may have lived, or not been shot. So again, the idea is surprise is very important, and not like going head on at the house isn't always the best option. I don't know if really a tranquilizer gun might actually be something that we want to look into. What's the legality of just if somebody's going crazy, to just shoot them with a tranquilizer and put them asleep. I mean, guess their weight. You load it up, bink. It might be actually something for the future to think about. You get stuck in old patterns and old systems that can't change. You're not shooting them to kill them, and again, that might happen, but for their safety and safety of everyone else, you just hit them with a little bit of something to calm them down. And they fall asleep. They go up and grab their rifle, and the EMS carts them off. Right. Actually, maybe something we've overlooked for too long. All right, give me a crack lighter dart. I'll get this sucker. Bink. He's still moving. Oh, he's getting sluggish. All right, he's down. Come on, get your mess in there. The game wardens teach us the program. I don't know. I mean, you got to. That's what after action review is about. What might be better? What can we come up with that's better? And hopefully next time it doesn't get to this. If there's something that we could do that was different, that could have changed the outcome. And that's my big one. Where if you have intelligence, you really want to go to the house. You can always take the person to the house once you secure them. Now, he probably wasn't coming out of the house too much because he was prepared. And we're talking about 35 days of rent or something. People lost their life for 35 days of rent. But again, he may have been off and on again. I don't know what was going on. But it said he had paid rent in 35 days. I guess that's when the paperwork was initiated. It's probably longer, but still, I mean, in the bigger picture of things, that's not that much money. I mean, there is the thought that we have to enforce this, or law and order, or we end up with lawlessness and worse things happen. But again, I'm waiting for the information to come out. But I'm just saying that the feds should have a system of after action review that everybody, the like Tulare County should conduct the after action review, but it should be if we're going to use it for the system, a guided after action review. And then you could have forms that pop up on their computer. They log in, and there's an after action review system and format, and then examples of what other people have written. Again, they might be a little paranoid that it be used against them, but again, if they're going to freely give up information, you're probably going to have to put a disclaimer that says it can't be used against them. So you may not even be able to use it for anything you're really actively investigating or believe that you'll investigate. Well, it's just to come up with other options that we, again, if in law enforcement, ABC works almost every time. But that one time when ABC doesn't work, if we have something that we read, so wait a minute, I read, JHK. I said we could do JHK because I read about this JHK. Well, I know ABC worked, but look, in JHK it said this, that, and the other thing. And look, there's this, that, and the other thing. Maybe we should use JHK. So, right. So that get a shareable knowledge base, right? So, because I just get a gut feeling that we've been here before. Like I said, it's on my X, so I can't remember. I start googling. Actually, that's how I did it last time. Shootings, eviction, officer involved shootings and officer deaths at evictions. Yeah, it's hard to do when there's a recent one. Let me go with 2025. Yeah, it's difficult to do. Where's 2025? Vero Beach. I may not have seen this one. Let me see. Yeah, 2 sheriff's deputies have been shot and 1 killed while serving eviction notice Friday on Vero Beach. That's one of them. So this might be, I'm not saying it is, but this is just an example. This might have, if we do an after action review on Vero Beach, which I may have done, I can't remember, and we come up with JHK. Okay, ABC works, but look, see this, and this. This means we should do JHK. So if Tulare County had access to that information, I said, I remember a case like this in the FBI after action review database, and maybe it's searchable. And even though we know ABC works for us, I think it's saying JHK. So let's do JHK. Let's try JHK. Yeah, we'll try JHK. You're not going to get out of where you are with that kind of shit without work. You got to do work to get out of it. Not to say that anybody's deficient; they're doing the best they can, but if they have the option of an after action review of different eviction issues, not just Vero Beach, there's a couple more in there. I may have told them to do JHK. That's a suggestion. All right, stay peaceful. Praise God, and all that you do, praise God.